What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Cyber Monday Show. We have an absolutely awesome show prepared for you, and we're going to get started on all of that after this. Alrighty, and so if you've been following along on Twitter or if you've seen the post on YouTube, then you know that we have our first episode here with our brand new co-host, Republic of Hackers' own Makeshift. How's it going, good sir? So just wanted to thank you for jumping on, and all of you, you can follow him. His handle is right down below at Makeshift, the A before the E, of course. So thank you for jumping on. I really appreciate it, and I mean, just absolutely stoked with what we got going on here.
Hey man, I'm the one that's absolutely blessed. Thank you for presenting me with this opportunity.
Oh, hey, absolutely, and we are actually joined by another absolute stud, and you guys might actually know him. We've interviewed him before, ladies and gentlemen. Toby Owolabi. How's it going, good sir?
Hey, what's up, guys?
All right, so y'all can actually also follow him at CyberShinobii. He is the founder of O-LineSec. And I have a link down below, I believe, on YouTube. If not, I will post it here in the chat shortly to our previous conversation. But Toby, thank you so much for jumping on. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me for part 2. Right, this is incredible. Hopefully, we get a part 3 sometime in the future. But thank you, and nice to meet you, Makeshift.
Nice to meet you too, buddy.
Man, so we got, just I feel like a ton to talk about because we talked about so much on the last interview. I rewatched it when kind of preparing for this, and man, I mean, there's just so much awesome stuff, and I've been following along with OLineSec and seeing the awesome work. What is new with OLineSec that has come out since our talk in March?
Well, first of all, sorry everybody, my camera's looking at me this way and the screen's this way. I don't want to miss Kayla's beautiful face while I'm talking. Now, it's been a lot of new things recently, but to keep it kind of short, the latest and greatest newest thing that's just happened is our new partnership with Jopwell. Right, Jopwell is an IT staffing agency that's trying to bridge the gap. Sorry, tongue twister. They're trying to bridge the gap with minorities and employers that are looking to fill certain needs, especially within IT, cybersecurity, infosec, all those fancy other hashtags. But so that's something new. Another one of my favorite things that's just been released probably a month ago now is our incident response course using Splunk. All right, a lot of that took a while to develop. We had a lot of SOC analysts that Deloitte tested out for us, make sure things were ready for people to start putting their money and coins into it. But it's pretty dope. You get to use Splunk to handle. Don't want to give too much secrets out, but you get to use Splunk to handle a malware incident. Also corroborate your findings with other tools outside of Splunk just to make sure you have a true positive. And the best part about it, you're not just going through the course as an analyst, you're understanding Splunk from an engineering perspective. All right, I'm also a Splunk consultant, so I threw in some goodies in there to show people how to get their data into Splunk, how to make the data make sense to incident responders and SOC analysts. And then we learned how to use Splunk as a pretty cool Splunker.
Yeah, I mean, man, you mentioned Splunk, and I'm just kind of like, oh, sweet. That's kind of where I got my start with InfoSec was while I was in school. I had an internship working with Splunk, and then of course now I deal a lot with it, and that's awesome. That's super. It's such a powerful and just excellent tool to be able to use.
Yeah, I mean, Splunk is there. If for the people who aren't familiar, Splunk is a SIM tool. Right, we use it for a lot of reasons. It's not just a security tool, but you're trying to aggregate all the logs that you have in your environment so you can get like a single view or high level perspective of what's going on in your environment. But as a someone in IT, information security, it's probably going to be one of your best weapons in your arsenal. Just understanding how it works, how to query data back from it, how to make sense out of it, because not all your logs and events make sense, right?
No.
But it's definitely my favorite SIM tool. I'm going to be biased, of course, but it's my favorite.
Yeah, 100%. No, I mean, I'd probably be the same thing. Again, just the backgrounds there with Splunk. But one of the other things, kind of looking back on our past conversations, was the Cyber Thursday meeting. Are you still doing those? And where can people join in?
Yes. Cyber Thursday has definitely taken a run. I'm not the YouTube guy. I really started Cyber Thursdays just as a platform for our students to have information when we're not in class, so they can't hear me talking 24/7. So I just started dropping stuff on YouTube. Then the Cyber Thursdays came about, which was supposed to be an extra hands-on study session. But people all around the world have been joining us on Cyber Thursday. They've been leaving fascinating comments about how some of them have gotten jobs from Cyber Thursday. Some of them have passed their Security Plus from it. Some of them are learning more that they're learning more on Cyber Thursday than they're learning in their associate programs or bachelor's degree programs. So I'm happy. People like you keep me motivated to keep doing the YouTube videos, even though it takes a lot, right? So I commend you for this, because it definitely takes a lot to get up there live, make mistakes in front of people, still feel like a human being, and try to help at the same time. So definitely kudos to you.
No, I appreciate it. And it makes it really easy having folks like you on that, keep me as a human and not a robot, right? And also, I'm just absolutely stoked to have Makeshift on now to kind of help me not feel alone in this. You know what I mean?
Got you.
So, and here in a couple weekends, I'm going to start, growing that beard back out, which means the mustache will have to go away and make it all even. But the plan is there. The plan is there to get the beard. It's not going to get quite to your length, unfortunately, but yeah,
I know this is a cybersecurity podcast, so I don't want to derail it by talking about beards or anything. But if you need any help with that, I'm here.
The Cyber Beard Podcast.
Rebranding. You heard it here, folks.
So, Toby, I wanted to kind of ask, because there's a lot going on. I don't know if you follow closely with just a lot of the events going on out on, like, let's say, InfoSec, social media, or even just elsewhere out there, right? And let me see. We're getting some sound feedback real quick. Sorry. I'll fix that here in a sec. But we occasionally see cases where the fundamentals get lost and confused, and then incidents happen. An organization might suffer a bit of a breach, and and it's because some of the more basic things, or what might be basic to cybersecurity professional that's around it all the time. Maybe a company's kind of trying to look, a few steps ahead, and sometimes they're forgetting those fundamentals. How important is it to get the grasp on the fundamentals, like some of the stuff that you teach at OLineSec, with helping people get the Security Plus and stuff like that? And how important really is it to continue to maintain that grasp even after you've gotten the certification, you've gotten the job, and maybe you're working more with some of those advanced topics?
I think it's super important, especially if this is something you're passionate about, right? Something you don't want to just do to get a check, right? If you really love it, the fundamentals are going to be super important, because you have different perspectives. Some people are, they have their roles because they want to feed their families. Other people have their roles because they really love and enjoy what InfoSec and IT and cybersecurity comes with. But the fundamentals, that's like, I'm sure my students hear me saying that in their sleep. That's everything to me, right? Because and this is just from personal experience, regardless of which environment I found myself inside of, whether it's with DoD, whether it's with hospitals or gaming companies, the fundamentals never left. The tools may change, right? The tools are always going to change. The data that you're working with is going to change, obviously, but the fundamentals especially I'm speaking from a security perspective, like a threat hunter or some type of blue team perspective right now. But no matter what shop you go to, those fundamentals don't change, right? You're still using the same fundamentals to handle your incidents, to take notes of your incidents, to triage them, to do your network analysis, your malware analysis. The forensics team is still, they're all using the same fundamentals when it comes from managing risk, prioritizing it, trying to take care of the bad vulnerabilities out there. It's still the same fundamentals that you can use to effectively turn an 8-hour day into maybe 6 hours or 7 on a good day. But without the fundamentals, it's like a soup sandwich, right? You start paying for all these fancy tools that nobody knows how to use, right? They don't know how to use the tools, and you're taking them through these courses, expensive courses, to teach them how to use the tools. They learn how to use the tools. Now it's like, okay, what do I do with the tool? I know how to use it now, right? But fundamentals are super important, man. I think that's the biggest principle at O-LineSecurity, right? Most of our students don't have the cybersecurity experience that you may have or other people may have. They're coming in with nothing. So how do we take them from nothing to something, right? We're not taking them to subject matter experts or heroes, but we're taking them somewhere. It's because of the fundamentals. They're getting jobs because they can fundamentally use tools to solve real world problems, right? They don't just have the security plus certification. The cert is cool, right? It's employers need it to cross that bucket off to get their budgets, but how do you keep your job, right? That's why I said it. And one of the factors are if you enjoy it, how do you keep that job? How do you progress? How do you get more? Well, you got to go back to the fundamentals and build on top of the fundamentals to keep going up. But I think it's super important. Always, 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 and not just with security, everything, right? It's like riding on a bike. Once you learn it, you're not supposed to be able to forget how to ride it, right? So
Yeah, mate. And mate, what do you think about, just kind of maintain that grasp on fundamentals? How often do you, refer back to those, old notes that you might have from, while you were just getting started, even, today, day to day, while you're, kind of knee deep in some of the advanced work?
I mean, personally, I have notes. I use Obsidian and OneNote like religiously, and I mean, I can't even tell you because I mean, even when we're in the Republic of Hackers, when we're doing hacking sessions, I mean, you're not going to remember everything. There's times where it's like if I don't, work with something on a specific port or whatever, I'm not going to always remember that that's that port number. That protocol's, running on there. So I have a list of all these different port numbers and what protocols run on them, just as a reference point, I mean, there's sometimes certain lines of, it could be PowerShell, it could be, just Linux commands that, do certain things. Like you have to have those notes. And if you don't, like you were saying, like if you don't have, and it's fundamental stuff. I mean, it's not just like super advanced stuff. It's super basic Linux commands that maybe you should memorize, but if you don't use them enough, then you're not going to remember. So and even some of the networking stuff, like I even know, even just from being and running our server, we constantly have people that are coming over and asking us, they're like, well, I really want to get into cybersecurity, and we're like, oh, that's fine, like what do you know? And they're like, well, I really want to just like get the Security Plus. And I'm like, great certification to go after, especially if you're trying to get into this industry. What do you know about networking? And they're like, oh, I don't really know that much about networking. I'm like, still go for the Security Plus, put it on the back burner and go after your Network Plus, or maybe not even have to necessarily go for the certification, but get the book, get a course on Udemy or whatever, and understand those networking concepts, because if you don't and you go into the Sec Plus and you start studying for that, you are literally going to struggle, because there are just, as CyberShinobii said, like there are just fundamental concepts that are talked about and, just methodologies and everything in that you utilize day in and day out trying to study for that Security Plus.
Yeah, I think that that's so good and super important. I mean, it's just like you said, you're not always going to remember, some of those very nitty gritty details that will definitely come back up. I think the trap that I fell into, just getting started and trying to find a start, was, I was wanting to kind of jump into some of the security topics. And like, my dad would kind of have to pull me aside and be like, well, listen, you got to start with the networking, learn networking before you learn cybersecurity. And that's, I mean, 100%. I mean, I could not agree more. That's so good.
Well, and it's really, I don't want to say it's funny, but it's kind of like almost kind of like a I told you so moment when you have these kids that are like, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm just going to go straight into the Sec Plus. And sometimes they have a little bit of knowledge enough to get them by, but even afterwards, there's other things, in the try hack me rooms, in the hack the box rooms, or even on their job when they get a job, they sit back and they go, crap, I really wish that I would have had this baseline knowledge. But like when we have people studying for the Sec Plus, they kind of sit back after a little bit and I feel, I don't know, I guess it makes me feel good realizing that they are honest enough to then come into the server and go, I admit I should probably go back and study some of this. Like there are concepts that we're running across while studying for this that I should know and I just don't. And I'm struggling to get past this because I don't know them. And they will actually go back. And obviously we help them go through that, but it's just, I guess, really kind of like, yeah, you can't get past without the fundamentals, man. It's like building a house. Can't start building the roof without the foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this comment kind of perfectly encapsulates it. I mean, talking about building a house, right?
Me and Dave are on the same page, man.
Yeah, and Toby, I think this was a point that you talked about in our last interview, where you mentioned that a lot of people will kind of fixate on, getting the security plus, but you have to remind them that that's kind of that is a step, but the ultimate goal is getting a job. And this kind of goes for both of you. Do you guys find that a lot of people might fixate on the certification, or they'll fixate on a specific, rung of the ladder, and kind of lose sight of the ultimate, goal, which is get the job, right? Do you see that?
Yeah, I see it a lot. More than I can think of, but the cert is, it's just a checkbox, right? It's literally just a checkbox. And once again, it depends on your perspective and what your goals are. Everybody has different goals, but from a overall, speaking in general terms, the cert is just a checkbox. And once you get that checkbox, that's one checkbox to get the job. But a lot of employers want to know, they want to be assured that you can do certain things, right? Not just take a test, right? They want to make sure if you're going for a help desk position, they want to make sure you understand how GPOs work, how Active Directory works, not just what it is from a terminology perspective. Or if you're going to vulnerability analyst position, the employers, they don't just want somebody, they need somebody with a security plus, but it's better to get someone with a security plus and who understands what the heck is going on, right? There's, just because Nessus tells you there's a vulnerability doesn't mean you stop the whole world from running and go fix all those vulnerabilities, right? You're not going to learn that from the checkbox, right? From just making the checkbox. You have to understand that there are other countermeasures, other factors that go into play when chasing vulnerabilities. But I don't know, it's a lot, this cert chasing thing, it's born from a lot of different areas. Some people believe the more certs they have, it'll, I guess, replace the lack of skills to get a job. And I mean, maybe it's true in certain regions of the world, but I haven't really seen that to hold too much weight, right? I know people with 10 certifications who don't know anything and they're still looking for a job, and they don't know why, right? It's because you have the certs, but you can't articulate what you're doing. You have the roof of the house, right? And you're trying to sell the house to somebody. But yeah,
this floating roof.
It's cool. It looks cool.
Yeah, I feel like I've kind of caught that a couple of times where sometimes you'll see, something just kind of like stated where the more it sounds like there's the advanced understanding, but it's kind of making a theory assumption. But the more you kind of peel the layers away, you find that those fundamental concepts either contradict certain elements or they just aren't fully flushed out. And it's, then like you say, like that, the very nice looking roof that's built on toothpicks just kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
So, one of the other things that I wanted to kind of hit on was, what are some tips that you have for new folks to better vet the people that maybe they follow, and this kind of ties into just mentorship and cybersecurity. There's a lot of people, that I know both of you guys have met that are looking for mentors and people that can help guide them into cybersecurity. I mean, you are both excellent mentors. What are some ways that people can find the right mentor, and what are ways that they can vet people to make sure that they are finding the right mentor and they're not finding someone that might unfortunately take them down the wrong path?
I'll let Mick take that one.
I mean, I'm biased, but I always redirect people to the Republic of Hackers server. I mean, we have, God, I think we're a little over 800 people, and so if you have questions on stuff, you're not just like reaching out to one person where you kind of have to gauge like, oh, are they going to be somebody that's good for me, or are they going to be somebody that's bad for me? It's like, you post something in our general chat, you could have 10 people responding back to you, and depending on who details that answer out better to you, that speaks more to you, then you can maybe send them a DM. Obviously, we don't want you guys spamming people or anything, but and something else that I did personally was, and again, it might not be best for you. I'm a very extroverted person. I have no problem talking to random strangers about literally anything. I reached out to Philip Wiley. He was already following me. I followed him. I sent him a DM and I was just like, hey, if you have the time, if you want to, I would appreciate you being a mentor for me, and doing some sort of mentorship with you. I don't want to invade too much on your time. I want it to do it, when it's, what's the word I'm looking for? Like when it's best for you.
Yeah, convenient.
But that you kind of almost have to do that. If you're thirsty enough to want to have a mentor, even just like, I mean, every Monday, I know Tanya Janka always ends up posting something. She's like, "Are you looking for a mentor? Cyber Mentor Monday or whatever." And like, tons of people will retweet that because they're like, "Hey, I'm willing to mentor somebody. Just reach out to me." I mean, there's a bunch of different avenues to do that, but and again, after talking to somebody for even a little bit, you will start to understand, is this person really helping me? Am I gaining enough stuff from talking to them, from being in this mentorship with them, where it's benefiting me? And if it's not, then just move on. Like that person, like if somebody came to me and they were like, "Hey, the way you're bringing about certain topics or the way you're explaining it is just not, it's not hitting me right, or I'm gaining something from this, I'm gonna just kind of go out and find somebody else." Like that's not gonna hurt my feelings. Like I'm gonna be like, okay, that's totally fine. Like the way I describe stuff just isn't working for you, and I will help you find somebody else because I know a ton of people.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, I think another, I totally agree with just not spamming people, but jumping into some DMs and saying, hey, I don't want to be a bug on the wall, but if you have time, if you can help me, I'd love to be one of your mentees. And before you do that, I'm a big advocate on LinkedIn profiles, right? Go and vet them out on LinkedIn if you can. Right. Some people don't have LinkedIn accounts, but there are a lot of professionals, subject matter experts who do have LinkedIn. And you just want to validate that they are who they say they are. I mean, you can easily do that by looking at their profile and seeing who they talk to. And the only reason I say that is because you have a lot of people who, social media is a double-edged sword. They're just going on social media and they're saying they're hackers, they're this, they're subject matter experts of this and that, and there's no proof, right? So you got to be careful with who you're getting advice from. Me personally, my mentors, they were all on LinkedIn. I did exactly what Meg just said. I hopped into their DMs. This was years ago, right? Like 7 years ago, when I can still find that first message. I just said, hey, I don't know anything. I didn't say it like that. It was other words that I used, but I don't know anything. Do you mind helping me out? I'm trying to become something X, Y, and Z one day. I don't want to make stuff up. I'll probably screenshot it and put it on Twitter later. But he said, yeah, right. It took him a week to respond back to me. I wasn't upset. I didn't bash him because he didn't respond back. But and that's something else you got to understand. The people you want to be your mentors, they're busy.
Yeah.
Like they're really, really, really busy. So you have to take your time with them and be nice. And everybody wants to try to help somebody, especially the ones who are there and that you want to be like. They would love to help you. It's just the timing thing. So I think LinkedIn is good validation check.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, both of those are excellent points. There's a couple questions here in the chat. I'm going to do this in reverse order because the most recent one's actually on exactly what we're talking about, and some of this we might have already answered. But how this from Salvador? How do you find a good mentor if you are not sure what exactly you want to do within network or cybersecurity?
Yeah, I mean, you're literally doing everything like that we're saying, because it's like, if say you, I don't know, say you reach out to somebody and you're wanting to go more like the defer route and it's more blue teaming, and say you reach out to Philip Wiley. Okay, well, Philip Wiley's a pen tester, so he's more on your red team side of things. He might not be the best person to help you alongside your blue teaming pathway, but he has a whole slew of people in his network that I'm sure are not just all red teaming pen testers. Like, there's going to be people that are more blue team, that are more on the incident response and digital forensic side of stuff. He can hook you up with them. So this is kind of where I almost tell people, like, you have to shoot your shot. You have to reach out to people and just go, hey, I'm looking to have somebody help me, and kind of steer me in the right pathway. Would you be able to help me? And if they say, yeah, I can, great. But if they say, no, I'm not going to be able to, hopefully they're, I guess I'll use the word nice enough to be able to direct you towards somebody else that is able to help you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. If you don't know what you want to do, you just got to start from somewhere. You won't know until you start doing something, right? Hit up Mr. Wiley, hit up somebody, slide in their DM, shoot your shot, ask them if they can steer you into the right direction. But you gotta shoot your shot at some type of target, though, right? Or else you'll never figure out what you want to do.
I found that most of the time, if people that you might see as a mentor, if they don't know the answer, then they'll know where to send you. They'll know, okay, I don't know the answer. Here's where you can go to find the answer. Same thing with a mentor. Like, I don't think I can help you, or I'd be the best resource. Here's someone that I know that might be better for you. So, I mean, I absolutely agree with what both of you guys are saying. Another question that was asked was on certifications, and we talked about this a little bit, and resumes even. I want to tie it in a little bit to that in the last interview, but one of the things that you mentioned was obviously don't lie on your resume, and it sounds kind of like a common sense thing, but unfortunately it happens. And so, what are the dangers of lying about a certification?
A lot, man. It's
I was gonna say, where do we start?
it's a small community, and I've had a lot of students. We've had students come to us who have done that, right? And they've expressed that. And the same thing I tell everyone else: it's you don't want to blackball yourself because your certs can get validated, right? If need be. I don't know if a lot of companies are validating it, maybe not. Maybe that's why everybody's talking about it, but they can be. But you don't want to get on a job and say you can, at least I don't want to get on a job telling them I can do X, Y, and Z, and then they put me behind a tool and I look silly, right? And then that's the quick way out the door, and that will be noted, right, on your employment paperwork. So when someone calls to do a background verification or some type of referral check, you can get blackballed in this community even by recruiting companies. So you got to be careful, right? Because recruiting companies share the same data. Well, they can share databases with each other. It's just an export of an Excel sheet. Hey, I have someone over here who doesn't fit our requirement. Maybe he fits your requirement. Oh no, he lied on his certificate last year or on his resume last year. That happens. It happens. Your name.
Yeah, I realized I was on mute there for a sec. Yeah, and the XSS threat has like kind of that point exactly. It's like your name goes around when you're found out. That's absolutely it. I mean, not great, not a good thing. Yeah, Meg, do you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it even kind of goes along the lines of, and I'm sure anybody on LinkedIn has had at least one of these because I get them. I get them probably once every single day. If you get somebody messaging you and they're like, "Oh, I can help you get this certification, 100% pass rate," and it's like, why would I want to cheat on passing a certification? Like, even if it's a small one, like even if it's like your A+ and you're going to try to get a help desk job, there are things on there that you need to know. You can't all of a sudden start messing around with a PC and you're working a help desk job and they're like, "Well, I need you to pull out the power supply," and you're just like, "I don't know what that is." Then they're like, "Well, don't you have your A+?" Well, yeah. You should know what that is. It's like there's no point in lying about a cert because just like CyberShinobii said, like you're gonna look like a tool.
Yeah.
Straight up, like you're gonna look like that they made a mistake, and any company that sees that, especially in our industry, if they hired you wrong, you might not get too many strikes before they drop you.
Yeah, because it's expensive to hire people. Right? That onboarding process is expensive.
Well,
yeah, and I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, you first.
Oh well, no, and it's also like it's if it's between someone that's like super qualified and then someone that lied, that's a huge disservice to the person that was qualified. Like they're not getting the job because the company thinks that you earned it. I mean, no way that you get to that point, but that's
Right.
also like what the technical interview is designed for. Is it'll weed people out based on if they don't know it. I've seen a couple examples on Twitter where someone was basically just talking about how they were finding people were hiring somebody to do technical interviews for them. And it's like, this whole like concept of people lying their way through the application process blows my mind. I can't, I can't fathom trying to do that and what it would take to even attempt to try that. Cause it just seems like that's so easy to catch for the company that's trying to hire. And even like one time I was like scrolling on Instagram and I saw some account that was like buy a certification, but it was like buy the certification, not like buy the voucher to take the test to get the certification. It was like buy it, we'll put your name on it and forge the certification for you. And I was mind blown about it. I was like just sitting there scrolling through the profile and they were posting on Instagram like pictures of these people like posing with their certification, like these people bought their certification today. And I'm just like, what in the world?
I see messages like that on LinkedIn at least once a week. Like, hey, we can help you pass this cert. Hey, we have the answers for this. And then I'm like, how are you getting this? First of all, that's what I want to know. And then two, why do you keep messaging me?
Well, and think about it this way, you almost wonder if that's like a form of phishing in a weird way. That like they're like, "Oh, we can help you get this, but you have to send us some money or click on this link to send." That's just you're just going down a very dark rabbit hole, and it's just like, man, just do your thing, study for the test, take it, and understand the concepts. Like, it's plain and simple. You don't
I
have to
didn't
try
even
to
think
figure it
about
out.
that being like a nice phishing scam, method. That I mean, that's super ironic. Like, I really wanted to get the Sec Plus, but then I got phished in the process. It's like,
Yeah,
like that's some bad fundamentals right there.
That's funny.
like it's scarily hilarious.
Yeah, that'll be a story. That'll be a story for later. How I try to get into cybersecurity. Well, I started by getting phished. The XSS threat has a question. What's your guys' opinion about employers paying for training?
I think it's great. It's great. It's great, 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 great. There may not be enough of it, but it's great. It saves money, right? Sometimes if you think about it, now they don't have to go out there and hire all the gurus. They can just train up their own employees, especially when they're giving training to the entry level folks who are trying to learn other things, other tools. It's just a great pipeline within the organization. I've never seen training go wrong, right? You just don't. I see more happy employees.
Well, and I think the reason behind that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like it almost shows that the company values you as an employee when they're willing to invest money into you to train you. I mean, and that's whether it's a case of them paying, saying, hey, if you go and you take your Sec Plus or whatever, yeah, it's a $350 certification. If you pass it, we'll reimburse you for that. Like, that's huge. And it falls directly in line with these companies, and the company that I work for included, is they were willing to take a chance on me only having my Security Plus. Like I had done some hacking and everything on the side, but taking a chance on me and willing to just on the job train me. Like that's huge. A lot of companies don't really want to do that because for them it costs them a lot of money to do that, and they would much rather just have a turnkey employee, somebody they're just like, oh, you already know all your blue teaming stuff, you've
Yep.
done this stuff for the last 5-6 years, we're going to bring you in, we might have to show you the ropes on a couple apps, but other than that you're set to go. After like a week you'll fit right in, you'll be like a pro. And it's like, man, you can't. That's what's turning a lot of these people away.
Yep. 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 And I like the training thing too. I try to use that to get people away from cert chasing, because I'll tell them, hey, focus on one good cert. Right? Focus on one good cert, invest your money in one good cert, whatever it may be, and use that to potentially help you get a job, and then let your employer, right? You'll have other tools when you get on the job. If they are willing to pay for you to get those training, then whatever they're willing should be your next cert. Maybe they want to get you some AWS training. Maybe they want to get you some Splunk training. Instead of you investing thousands of dollars into all these certs, which may not matter at the end of the day, just figure out what your employers are spending money on, right? What do they want to train you up on? Or see if you can just ask, hey, can I go do XYZ training? If they say no, they say no.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to tell priorities based on the budget. And if a lot of money is going into something like training, then you can tell, again, like you guys have said, that the company values their employees and they want to develop them further. And I think that there is a correlation between employee retention and how much they're investing in their employees,
Okay.
and including things like development, like tuition assistance, and paying for them to go to conferences and get certifications, because we're all eager to learn. We want to advance in our career. We want to learn these new things, and an organization that's willing to continue that for their employees, that really goes a long way, and that's something that attracts more talent wanting to get in on that. So then they're never really at a need. Whenever they're open up a vacant position, like, people will be lining up for that.
Yeah, like I said before, and I'm just going to re-echo this. Um, it for somebody, myself, for many years was not valued as an employee. I mean, the company, and I'm not going to start naming names or anything like that because I don't want to bash them wholeheartedly, but there was no paid training. There was no, like the on the job training was real sketchy. It was just it wasn't good, and I never felt like I was valued as an employee. Whereas with this new company that I'm with, it's like, we're going to take the time. We're going to train you up on all this stuff. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I don't know whether there are certain benefits they offer as far as like paying to go to conferences or whatever, but it's like, even for me, coming essentially from nothing, where it's like they didn't even, there was no even like college reimbursement for tuition or anything. Like, it was like, no, you had to pay for it out of pocket. And oh, by the way, if the hours of your college class aren't outside of work, well, then you're just not going to do it. Like, it was like this huge, deterrent to me even trying to go to college. And it's like, I'm not even coming close to catching that vibe at the place I'm at right now. Like, they have just been unbelievably awesome. And it's like, every company needs to take note of this. Like, there's reasons why these companies their retention of employees is very high. You don't have people leaving because they're like, why? I'm still learning here. This place pays great. They appreciate me. Why would I leave?
Yeah, 100%. And I know that, Toby, we're coming up to time that you'll have to depart. That sounds morbid. It is not that serious, but again, I really appreciate you jumping on. We have one last question, just if you don't mind kind of taking a look at it before you bounce.
Yeah.
That's not it. My bad. Wrong comment. Here we go. Most valued cert that you know of, and this could be, obviously not necessarily monetary, but just most bang for your buck, I guess.
Most valued cert for yourself that you know of. Well, the ones that I do have right now, without a doubt, my most valued, probably my most favorite and the most challenging, the only exam I failed ever, right, out of all the certs that I have, is the Splunk consultant exam. That certification took a while, a very long time to go up through the entire training path. You have to do the admin course, the dashboarding course, advanced search and reporting. It's a bunch of different school of training that they have to get you to, that you have to pass. If you don't pass it, you have to start all the way over. And then the last exam took me for a doozy. I failed it the first time and I was pissed off. I was really, really pissed because I studied. The first time I made flashcards for every single thing and tried to make everything make sense. And I came back and took it again about 3 months later and knocked it out. But that is definitely my most valuable and something that I use on a daily basis. The one that I don't have yet, though, I haven't taken it yet, which will be my most valued, is going to be the OSCP. I haven't taken it yet, haven't had a chance to sit for it yet, trying to build out O-line security. No excuses, though. I should have taken it already. But that's going to be my favorite one, even if I fail, so it doesn't matter.
I will say, and it's really the only cert that I have, but I personally feel that depending on anywhere that you get in cybersecurity, it's beneficial, and that's the Security Plus. That is a hard cert to pass. Like, that's not a walk in the park, and I found that out real quick. It was my first CompTIA cert, and it was definitely a doozy. But you learn some very good concepts of security, whether you're red team, blue team, if you're, GRC, like any of those, it will cover a little bit about. And it just it allows you to kind of figure out which pathway that interests you more. Like, I took it and I was still like, okay, I still really like red teaming, I'm gonna just kind of continue down that route. But you might take it and go, wow, I really enjoyed the blue team stuff, and then start trying to study for going down that route as well. It's just a really good baseline cert, and so.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I don't think I'd be anywhere right now without that Security Plus cert. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, for sure. No, I completely agree. And I could probably go on forever about it, but sir, I know that it's time. We gotta see you later. Part 3. There will be a part 3, right?
Yes.
That'll be good. Man, I mean, I'm so thankful for you jumping on again. I absolutely love everything that you're doing at OLineSec. Your Ravens beat my Chiefs, and I was there for it, and it was actually a really fun time. Ravens fans were very nice to me, and they had a great evening.
Do we have another game coming up? I don't think so. Not this.
Well, it's not going to happen in the playoffs because the Ravens would be lucky to see the Chiefs in the championship game. So
there you go.
But
I'll give it to you.
All righty. Well,
thank you for having me, man. I really do appreciate it. First time was a blast. This time was a blast, and it was cool to. I definitely got to follow you, Makeshift, on Twitter. I suck at Twitter. Social media period, but I would definitely follow you right after this. Thank you for having me, Caleb. I really appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, my pleasure. Oh, I hit the mute button. So everybody, you guys can follow him at CyberShinobii and at O-LineSec. But we will continue here. So we were talking about the Security Plus, and so it's so broad because it not only covers defensive, concepts, it covers offensive concepts, it covers governance, GRC, governance, risk, and compliance concepts. It covers so much, and it builds off of a networking understanding, and it really, it ties into that pretty heavily. And so we were talking about fundamentals at the very beginning. I feel like the Sec Plus really is just, and you mentioned that it was really hard to pass. I made a video about this some time ago, but whenever I took it, I managed to get it on my first try. But if I had to delay taking it. If I didn't delay it, I would have failed.
I did too.
Legit. It's like, and you think, going to college, they would teach you enough, and they teach you a lot. It gets you a good chunk of the way. But yeah, no, you're doing the practice test, and you're like, man, there's so much they're not actually like that. It really is just like a lot of information, and it goes like, granular enough that it requires deeper, practice and investigation. So yeah, I feel like the most bang for your buck, probably the Security Plus. And the good thing is that it's cheap.
Oh yeah, it's
very relative to other certs, it's pretty cheap.
Base price. Yeah, I always tell people the story, and I use it as a way to motivate people when they're getting ready to take it. Is like I had never taken a CompTIA test before. I don't have my Network Plus. I don't have an A Plus. Security Plus was the first one. I just kind of, and I did it kind of like I did in high school, where I was like, oh, okay, I'll study for a little bit here and there, and thought I was just going to kind of BS my way through it, and started taking some of these practice tests and realized real quick I need to study more. And I had a specific date that I was going to take it, and I was like, I'm not ready for it, and I'm not going to blow $350, even though it's a very entry-level price for these certifications. Like, I'm not going to blow that money because I didn't study for it, not when I have an entire year from the point you purchased the voucher to take it. So I said, because I had a buddy of mine on our server named Josh, and he just was sending me some freaking some practice tests. He's like, here, just take this, see how you do. I have the answers. We'll test you it later. Great. Took them, bombed every single one. And I'm like, all right, enough playing around. I want this cert. I'm going to schedule it 2 weeks out. And I'm going to every single night spend 2 to 3 hours studying, even on weekends, even on nights where if I got to be up till 1 o'clock in the morning studying for the cert, I'm going to do it. And I did it, and I passed the Sec Plus on my first try. Barely, but I passed it.
Yeah, and that's really what it takes. And that's one of the things that I talked about in that video was, don't be disappointed to push it back, but do use that as motivation to dig in. I can be very hard on myself if maybe if I fail at something, or if I feel like I failed at something. But there's some level of personal grace that goes along with it. But on the other side is use that as motivation to really continue it and push into it. We have a question here that's related. Is after the A+, should you get the Net Plus or Sec Plus?
I mean, I honestly, I would go for the Net Plus if that's, if you want to continue going more into heavier stuff, because the A+ is really just, it gives you, it's almost kind of like the Sec Plus for literally everything. Like, it gives you a very baseline for networking. It gives you a very baseline for just a very, very, very broad security. Like, they don't cover hardly anything on it, but it gets you just enough to then get a help desk job. And then, if you want to do something outside of help desk, that's when you get your Network Plus. That's going to start covering more of like, like being a network engineer, sysadmin, like something that is going to pay a little bit more because it requires more experience for that position. And then, yeah, if York Yard is looking to get into security, then obviously the Sec Plus would be the next one. But yeah, it generally goes in the A+, Net Plus, and then Sec Plus order.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, truthfully, I never actually got the A+ or Net Plus. Again, the certifications are really just a certification of knowledge, not necessarily like you must have this piece of paper to survive. They might even help with, HR. I mean, most of the time they will help with HR quite a bit. But, it's not necessarily like you don't know something until you have that piece of paper. Like, you can know something and not have the paper.
Oh yeah, I mean, I always tell people this too. Like, the only reason I went and got the Security Plus was just to get past the HR, what we call it, an HR Firewall, because that's essentially what that is. It's like they have stuff that they know they're looking for, and having that just makes you look that much better in their eyes. I can guarantee you, if I didn't have the Security Plus, I would still be working in help desk, hating my life.
Yeah, that HR Firewall is for real.
Oh.
And I think that's something that maybe is a topic that we should talk about a little bit more, just openly on like InfoSec Twitter or whatever, but maybe even on this channel, to be honest, is how to navigate that. Because if you're just wanting to break into cybersecurity, that HR Firewall can be a formidable opponent if you don't have the correct tools. And unfortunately, those tools can occasionally be pretty expensive. Like, a lot of bigger companies will require like a bachelor's degree for some positions. Even though, I mean, I know there are some positions that I'm qualified for on paper that I'm not qualified for, practically speaking. But because I have a bachelor's degree, I could get past the HR Firewall. And likewise, there are people that don't have a bachelor's degree that are very qualified for the position, that unfortunately, for whatever reason, the HR Firewall just seems to not let people get through.
Yeah, I mean, how many times do you see it on Twitter all the time? I can guarantee you, if I ask the question right now, your chat would literally light up. Is how many times on a job posting do you see stuff for entry level, and then almost they're like, oh, 3 to 5 years of experience? That's not entry level. Or require a CISSP. Okay, that's not entry level either. Oh, bachelor's degree and all this other. Okay, stop. Like, I mean, I've even seen people asking for internships, asking for 2 to 3 years of experience. Like, bro, if I have 2 to 3 years of experience, I'm not looking for an internship. It's just the name of the game. But it's because you have an HR group or person or whatever that doesn't understand. They just look around and they'll go on Indeed or whatever, and they'll look up similar job postings for it, and they'll be like, oh, well, that's what this person's searching for, so I know what to throw into mine. And it's like, I think HR really needs to start involving, if they're not already. I'm not in HR, I don't know, and I'm not part of the hiring process, but they really need to start getting involved with their specific departments, whether that's IT or whatever, and asking, what do you require somebody to have? Because I can guarantee you the requirements or the recommendations, that list is going to be way, way, way smaller. And I think you're going to have a lot more people that are going to be willing to apply for those positions. Because I know for myself, and I had to have somebody talk me out of it, was not applying for those positions, asking for all that, because it is a deterrent. You see, like for me, if I sat back and I was looking at something for my position, saying bachelor's degree, 2-3 years of experience in sysadmin, and whatever Net Plus, A Plus, and Sec Plus, might deter me because I don't have the A Plus or the Net Plus. I don't have a bachelor's, and I don't have 2 to 3 years of experience. I wouldn't apply.
Yeah, and the comment earlier about HR kind of acting as a gatekeeping mechanism. I mean, I feel like that is absolutely pertinent, and it's unfortunate because we have this conversation openly about reducing that. And I don't, honestly, I don't think that HR people even intend for that to happen. It's often, I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's a bureaucratic mechanism that it is a challenge removing bureaucracy. I feel like sometimes, and that's, I don't know how to. I mean, that's like an internal conversation most of the time. Is how can each organization themselves tear that apart more or less.
Well, and I think too, I think for some HR, I think it is kind of just like they don't really realize what they're doing. But I think for some HR, they do. I think what they're trying to do is they're like, we're just trying to weed out all of the people that we don't feel are qualified for this particular position. Because again, a lot of companies are looking for that turnkey employee, whereas it's like, for my company, I mean, if you look at their job their job requirements for that position that I'm in, I didn't even hit probably 25% of it. But they took a chance on me, and I've had glowing reviews from both my director, my VP, like everything. They're like, man, you're doing such a great job. And it's like, yeah, like I don't hit all these requirements, but I'm still able to come in here, do the job. I'm willing to learn. I'm striving to be the absolute best that I can be, They need to start taking chances on people. And I know it's expensive and everything, but it's like, you're going to find people that are kind of that diamond in the rough that will surprise you. You're going to sit back and go, oh my God, like, where have you been for the last 25 years when this company first started? Like, we could have used you way back when, like they're going to sit back and realize that.
Yeah. And I feel like that's exactly it. And I will forever be grateful for my current boss, because whenever I was interviewing for my current position, I actually wasn't actually given the position that I was interviewing for. They put me in another position that, if I were to think coming out of college, something that I felt weakest on, that's really what they put me at. And it was a sink or swim situation. And I learned like a fire hose. I learned so much in that role. And I feel like it has just boosted my confidence in so many areas, because it's like you said, once you find people that they're wanting to learn, you give them the opportunity to learn, and they'll make it happen. I mean, you have to make it happen. You're trying. I mean, you've worked this hard. You've gotten this far to get into the industry. Now you get your opportunity, and if you fail, that's pretty bad. You cannot fumble the football right here. You're at the 1-yard line. Take it into the end zone, and I think the managers and bosses out there that are willing to do that will be richly rewarded.
Oh yeah. And the thing too, and I mean this goes very well in trying to find a job and everything, that it helps you kind of bypass that HR firewall in a way, is networking with people. I mean, I cannot express how much networking has just helped me in general. And I actually, like, I won't say too much more about it because I know we're kind of running a little over on time, but I do have a YouTube video that I made specifically talking about networking and how I went from having maybe a little over 300 people following me when I first started this, and I'm upwards of like 4,500 people now. I mean, I jumped, and it was just due to networking. And I understand that there's extroverted people or introverted people that they have a little bit more difficult of a time than some of the rest of us do when it comes to engaging with people, and that's understandable. And I will be more than willing to help people kind of get around that. And by the way, too, anybody watching this, you guys are more than welcome to reach out to me. My DMs are always open on Discord, Twitter, whatever. If you have any questions in regarding to networking, I literally, like, I'm almost to a point now where I want to start having like convention talks on networking, because I think it is a skill that is kind of desperately needed in this industry, because people are sitting back, like we were talking tonight, like they're trying to pass all these certifications to get past this HR firewall. And it's like, that's a great one. It makes you look good in their eyes, but if you form some connections with people, you almost bypass that entirely. Like I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think I really had hardly any interactions with HR for the current company, because I had somebody that was willing to vouch for me and put in a good word for me.
Yeah, and we talk about, and this sounds mischievous, right? We talk about in security that insider threats are a real problem. Well, networking, that can actually be a huge asset. If you have somebody that works inside, I mean, best way to get past the human firewall, insider threat. Somebody that works at the company that can vouch for you and is willing to, slide your resume to HR and say, hey, listen, I know this person, I know that they're set up for this. There you go. Find your insider threats.
Yeah. Like I said, networking is absolutely huge, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I would not have gotten my job if it weren't for the networking portion. I mean, the skills and the know-how that I have in security helped me a ton, but I had a hard time looking for a job, and it was because I just kept getting turned away, for whatever reason. But the networking helped me get in. And look at where I'm at now. I finally broke into the InfoSec industry after, a year of trying. I started off from literally, I got, I can go into this story maybe in a later podcast. Tune in maybe next week. But I went from, like, literally it took me a year from deciding that I wanted to get into InfoSec to getting into InfoSec.
Sorry, you caught me like typing a message real quick, and then I was on the mute button. It happened. Yeah, we do have one more question here, but I do kind of want to hit on networking just a little bit more because it is so important. What are some tips that you have for folks that are trying to get in? I mean, like you said, you built that network out. Three's kind of a lot, but just off the top of your head, and we can come back to this later and talk more about it. What are some tips that you have for networking that folks that are trying to break in can utilize to make it happen?
So the first one that I know some people it kind of annoys them. They kind of think it's a little bit spammy, and I understand that. I really do. But for somebody that was starting out and trying to network with people, the follow Fridays is huge. I mean, it's a case of like, I went around and I was tagging in your Alyssa Millers, your Philip Wiley's, your Bryson Bort's. Like, I was tagging these people, and I was like, oh, follow, hashtag cybersecurity, and these people would follow me back. That was like the first part of it. And then the second part is engage with these people. Don't just go in looking like, I'm just looking to get a job, and I think that if I can make a connection with this person, that's what's going to happen. I'm just going to get this job because I know them, and I can put that on my resume. I knew them on Twitter. No, I went in with the mindset of, I genuinely just want to be friends with these people. I'm not. Looking for a job was like kind of like the cherry on the sundae. If it happens, great. That's not the main goal. The main goal is just to make some friends. You connect with these people, you engage with them, you comment on their stuff. Even if they don't comment on your stuff or if they don't like it, don't let that deter you. Still continue to do it because eventually they will. I have people that, I might not always necessarily interact with when they comment on my stuff, but if I see them consistently, I'll eventually want to talk to them because I'm like, oh, okay, this person's putting in the effort to try to talk to me and make some conversation, And then the third one is if they have content, share it. Because one, you have a network of people that might not be connected with them. They're not going to see that. So you're doing them a favor by sharing their content, and you're helping out others in the same vein. So it's like it's almost like you're grabbing stuff from them, you're sharing it, you're helping out other people. You don't know who that post could help. It might get somebody going, Alyssa Miller posts this. Oh, I wonder what else Alyssa Miller would post. Then you go to her page, and you're like, oh, shit, okay. There's some other stuff on here that I could really benefit from, That's just how that works. And if you share these people's stuff, they will eventually start to see it. They'll start engaging with your stuff. They might follow you back. If they follow you back, you're in the gold at that point. But those are roughly the three things that I always tell people. And there's way more than that. But you just have to get involved with these people and get involved with the community. These people are not going to bite your head off if you ask a question, just as long as you Google it first. Because if you don't Google, they're going to ask you, did you Google this first? Especially if it's something that we can find within the first 10 minutes of Googling. But you have to interact with these people. I mean, I have people that are, they send me DMs all the time, and I have no problem answering them. It might take me a little bit because I'm either working or I'm busy doing some stuff. Might be flinging discs, playing disc golf. I will get back to you eventually, and I have no problem helping people, but you have to ask because, again, it's like you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Yeah, I mean, 1,000%, and that's all just absolutely excellent advice. So, and I mean, on the point of sharing, so if you're watching this video, share some videos, and if Makeshift has a good tweet, hey, share it out. I mean, that's always that really is actually a great way to get more engagement because that is something that stands out more than just a like. And I mean, I've noticed for me, even whenever I'm, sharing someone's stuff, like they take note of that and they'll comment and they'll, you end up getting more engagement with that person that way.
Yeah, it's like if you share this podcast enough times, maybe we'll bring you on. And
big brain move.
I don't say that just out of jest and making a joke. I say that because that helped me. I shared, and I'm going to give him a plug because he's a really cool guy. And I believe you did an interview with him not too long ago. I shared a lot of Cyber Warriors podcasts. I eventually got asked to jump in on his podcast, which helped me network with a bunch of other people. And it just kind of went down from there. Wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have shared the stuff.
Social media really can be kind of one of those wild things because it can be a real negative whenever not kept in check, but it can be a tremendous positive. I mean, there are just fantastic networking opportunities, even on Twitter. There are just some excellent folks on there. And, again, like you might get job opportunities out of it. It really can be one of those things that when utilized correctly and effectively. Yeah, exactly. And you're a perfect example of that on how that can work. We got one more question. I know that this show has been nicknamed by I don't want to get the handle wrong. I think it's the Hippo Cricket on Twitter as the Monday Night Football pregame show. And I know that some folks are wanting to get to that, but we got one question that I'm really interested to get your opinion on is how do you cope with information overload? I know that you talked about Obsidian. I love Obsidian. I've been using Obsidian for some of my personal notes. And if you guys don't know what that is, let me know, especially if you'd like a video on it. Believe it or not, I made a video, but just for some like people like in a private setting. but it is such a phenomenal note-taking platform. It's a relational note-taking platform. We can talk more about it, but anyway, just to get at the question, how do you deal with information overload?
I mean, to be honest, I know we talked about taking notes, but another big thing is, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions. If there's a lot of information being thrown at you, that person probably giving you all that information, like if they're training you for a job, they're aware of the fact that I'm literally feeding you from this fire hose and I'm just straight blasting all this water into your face. You're not going to understand or comprehend or be able to retain hardly any of this. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Take notes, ask questions. And a big thing that I always try to tell people is try to pay attention. Like if you're on like a, obviously I know a lot of us are probably working from home, so we're not actually able to sit across the table from somebody as they're training us or whatever, but like make sure you are really, really focused in on listening to them and being able to comprehend what they're saying. Because sometimes if you're too focused on like trying to remember everything that they're telling you instead of like focusing on exactly what it is that they're saying at that point in time, it might seem like it's overwhelming. And another thing too, and I mean this kind of goes more like with studying. If you're studying, and I did this a lot with the Sec Plus, and I know a lot of people said that this helped them as well. If you're studying for the Sec Plus and it's a big exam, take breaks. Do not think that by taking a break, you're like setting yourself back. You're like, oh, if I take a break now, I can't go out and have a barbecue with my friends this Friday because, I took this break. It was 15 minutes. No, you have to take that break. If you study, you read a chapter, okay, take an hour, take 2 hours. Let your brain retain that information before you start bringing other concepts in. I mean, I can't express that hard enough because if you do, you're going to deal with information overload and it's going to be self-inflicted at that point because you're like, well, I had to pass it by this date. No, you have a year. Set it back if you have to, but make sure you're taking breaks because if you don't, you're just going to drive yourself into the dirt and then you're not going to remember stuff and you're going to go, well, why don't I remember this? Well, it's because you weren't letting your brain soak that information up,
Yeah, I mean, burnout really is it's not good. Nothing will complicate your learning process more than burnout. It'll devastate the process. It'll make you afraid to dive back in just because you're going to remember, well, last time I, invested in this process, I got just totally, physiologically destroyed by it. And, absolutely take breaks 100%.
Well, and even going real quick into like burnout, again, this is a topic that we could spend 2 hours talking about. I am still currently suffering from burnout. I don't talk about it a whole lot because it's kind of something that I know that I'm dealing with and I'm trying my best to kind of cope with it. But because I didn't take the Security Plus certification seriously enough, and then I spent 2 to 3 hours every single night after work studying for it for 2 weeks, took it, didn't really get a whole lot of time to kind of chill and relax after that because roughly 2 months after, I got my job. And then I'm trying to learn everything that's involved with getting a new job and then having to put in my 2 weeks notice. And it was so much that it's like, I haven't spent time really hacking or doing anything in the last 4 months because I just haven't been mentally there. And every time I think about studying, I'm just kind of like, I'm just not there yet mentally, and that it is a serious, serious thing. And yeah, I mean, you have to take breaks, be kind of smart, if you're studying for something like that, ask somebody like, hey, how did you study for it? Or what would you recommend is the best way to go about studying for this so that I don't experience burnout? And don't think that you won't, because you will. It'll happen. It's just reach out to people, find out what they did, how they overcame it or whatever, you know.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, that I think we should do, talk about burnout, because it really, like you said, we all have lives, we all have families, we all have things outside of work that we're trying to do, and that really piles up, and over time it doesn't stop. And so if you're not making that time to make it stop, it'll wear down very quickly on
Oh
you.
yeah.
And it's a bad deal. Um, well, that's a negative note to leave this on. So, leaving it on a positive note, I know you mentioned earlier that you did, streaming on games. What is your favorite game? And if you were to do another stream, but you could only do streaming on 3 games, what would you do it on?
Oh man. Well, one of my favorite games that I used to play a lot of was Rocket League, and I recently got so upset at that game that I uninstalled it, and I have not played it for over a week now. Um, but if I had to go back to streaming a game, it would probably be either Call of Duty. I'm a big Call of Duty person. I love the competitive aspect. Go Chicago Optic. Um, I really like Halo. If you didn't know, there's a little bit of a pattern going here with the first-person shooters. Um, and then I would end up probably going back to Rocket League. Those are just they're fantastic games, and being as busy as I am, and for maybe other people that don't play games, it's really neat because for like Rocket League, like you can go in, play for 5 minutes, and then jump off. There's no like progress or anything. You're not like, oh, I gotta pause this and then go back in. No, it's like whatever. No, it's just soccer.
Yeah, I feel that. That's a good selection. That's a good selection. I feel like I have some games that, like, they're very immersive,
Mhm.
and some of them, like, there's one game called Squad, which it's not a game. Let's just say it's not a game to play if you're stressed out and you're burnt out. It will raise your anxiety level by 50 very quickly, and it would make for some interesting streaming, but it's stressful whenever you're on the controls. That's for sure.
Have you tried playing New World yet?
I have not. I've been seeing a lot of people talking about it. Is that like a fantasy setting? What kind of game is that?
Yeah, so it's supposed to be kind of like Pirates, I guess. Like it has a very piratey theme to it, but it is just one of those games that is this giant, what they call an MMORPG, or massive multiplayer online role playing game. And you got to sink some time into it. I already have friends that have sunk almost 100 hours into it. I'm sitting back at like 10, and it's daunting to me. That's why I have a hard time jumping in and playing it, because it's like you don't just go in there and play it for 5 minutes because you don't accomplish anything. You have to go in there and spend like 2 hours a session to really feel like you did something, and it's hard.
Yeah, I feel that. And there's like, I feel like some open world, like sandbox games that you can kind of pick up and put down more or less. Obviously, like some of the missions might go a bit long, but those are fun to kind of cycle in and out. There's like a game called Madden. I love to play that, but some of the online matches, they might go for like 40, 50 minutes. So
Oh,
that's a bit
really?
more of a time investment. And then I guess like squad, those matches go for like an hour, hour and a half. But again, those are they're an emotional commitment as much as they are a time commitment. So
Well, and I'll plug a game because I actually really really liked it. And I thought that if you enjoy the red teaming side of things, if you enjoy running Linux commands and whatnot, there's a really good game, and it's fairly cheap. I think it was only like I spent maybe $5 on it, and it's on Steam, called Hacknet, and it is. Just from playing maybe the 5 hours that I did so far, it is very, very good at replicating like what you would actually do. There's some things where they have to make it more gamey related, so that you're not actually typing out like, whatever to do a DDoS, but like there are certain things, like there are certain commands that you use in these interfaces that are the exact same thing that you would do if you were running on Linux. And I thought it was a very good kind of like, it's almost how I hack the box or try hacking. Like they take topics like that and they turn it gamey and they make it fun to learn. And I felt like I retained a lot of the stuff that I learned, and even some stuff I learned, you know. So I'm just gonna plug that.
I love it. I love it. Well, everybody, we are, we're technically past time. I mean, I'll kind of like mention, time, but these, I love that we're finding things to talk about, and these are all excellent. And I've made note of it. We definitely need to circle back on some of these topics and dig in a bit more, because a lot of them are very important. And I think that talking about it more could benefit some people. So that's definitely in the future. But for now, we're going to go ahead and close this up. Again, if you were here for CyberShinobii, here are the spots you can follow him, and O-LineSec, which is just an absolutely awesome, organization he runs. And for both of us, here are our Twitter handles. Definitely give us a follow and let us know if we can help with anything. We are both absolutely here for it.
I will say real quick, not to interrupt you. So for the makeshift, it's SHYFT.
Oh
no! I don't know if you go to search for somebody and it's SHIFT who you're gonna find, but it won't be me. Hey.
Oh no! Hey, listen, it's been a day. It's been a day.
It has been a day.
But hey, now it's saved and it'll be this way forever. So we fixed it. So everybody, thank you for jumping on Makeshift. Man, I am so happy that you're here. We'll have you here week to week. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to it. And I real quick, because I know we talked about a lot of things, a lot about finding jobs and mentorship and everything. If you find me on Twitter, on my bio, there is a link to the Republic of Hackers Discord. Do please click that and join up, because we are always welcoming new people. We're always willing to help with questions. We've helped people pass OSCP, EJPT, Sec Plus, Net Plus. We've helped people get jobs. Like, we are literally there to help you in any way, shape, or form that we can. Do not be afraid to reach out to us.
Yeah, 100%. And the Republic of Hackers Discord is awesome. There are so many spaces to learn. I mean, not just red team stuff, but blue team stuff as well. And sharing resources and different sources or, places to learn. It's excellent. StudioSec verified. So with that, we'll leave it at that. Everybody enjoy Monday Night Football, and we will see you all next time.